I don't know.
Think about it this way, the Steven Crowder $50 million conversation. I would say, not to toot my own horn here, but probably more popular a figure overall than Steven Crowder. There is no $50 million deal coming my way. That is unimaginable. That would never happen in a million years.
I would compare Hassan's size to like Steven Crowder, other than the size of his head. Yeah. And no, none of us ever get any companies reaching out wanting to give us buckets of money.
Steven Crowder doesn't have to generate $50 million in revenue. He just has to keep saying the right things. And billionaire-backed independent media that is basically cutting the same exact propaganda that Fox News cuts will keep funneling money to those places.
Yeah. So I understand our disadvantages very well because I'm in this business, right? But look, even with all of our disadvantages, TYT gets about 5 billion views a year. So Daily Wire can kiss my ass. All the right-wingers combined can kiss my ass.
I'm pretty sure the Daily Wire gets probably way more than that. I wouldn't even be surprised if they get way more than that. I don't know the exact number that they get in a year, but a lot of their channels are very popular.
So the good news is I'm not just a good host. We have a lot of great hosts on TYT. I'm a really good businessman.
Okay, see, this is what I mean when I say that he comes off like a smug asshole. Hassan is talking about like a concept that these people that are on the right, they get deals and they get buckets of money that we could never get on the left. We being leftists who make content online. And then Cenk responds saying, well, my page is doing really well, okay? My company does really well for itself. I'm a great businessman. It's like, this isn't even relevant to the point that's being made, Mr. Cenk. Mr. Cenk, please, please.
And so I have maintained us in business for 21 years in an impossible industry. We built a network of progressives, and we just keep on winning. So they're not going to be able to get rid of us. We're going to win, and then when we get more resources, we're going to dominate even more. So the problem, the advantage that the right wing has is infinite money, and the left has almost no money at all, right? But the disadvantage that the right wing has is that they're not popular. We say things that are popular, and people like what we're saying because it's in favor of them, right? The right wing has garbage that says, oh, rich people are great. You should give all of your money to rich people. This show brought to you by rich people. That shit's never going to be ultimately that popular. And part of the reason why
but that's why they don't, they always...
What do you mean it's never going to be ultimately that popular? Are you kidding me? Do you know how well some of these channels are doing? No. It's very popular. People like overlook that shit. I mean, look at fucking like even Alex Jones. Alex Jones is... There's a reason he runs all those ads for gold and for bucket meals or the doomsday prep. It's because it makes a lot of fucking money. You know?
Move around and try to latch on to, focus tested talking points on deeply and undesirably unpopular policy positions that they have. That's why nobody says we want to criminalize abortion and like lock women up that have a pregnancy and want to exercise their bodily autonomy. They say we're pro-life. Life begins at conception. And when there is an anti-Catholic, anti-Christian slant in the United States of America, which there is, then they change the conversation around from even someone like Ben Shapiro, who is very religious, like he doesn't hide that. They change the narrative around from, instead of talking about like how life begins at conception as a Christian talking point and therefore you have to abide by it because America's a Christian nation, they move towards how this is actually a moral argument. This is the scientific argument. This kind of paradigm shift, this kind of like propagandizing and the mechanism that backs it is all too powerful because, once again, it goes back to concentration of wealth. It doesn't really matter. Like Daily Wire is more successful than both of us combined. I'm sorry. That is just the reality.
No, not in terms of views. In terms of money,
I
have more
don't
money.
think so. I think that they are very
You think they
successful.
get more than 5 billion views a year? I'd be
I
very
don't know.
surprised
I don't
by
know what
that.
metrics you're working with when you say 5 billion views a year. I don't know if you're just simply talking about YouTube.
Facebook,
Yeah,
Roku,
you're talking about
Pluto,
YouTube, Facebook.
Snap.
Oh my God. They get more viewers. If we're talking, I thought he was talking about only YouTube. If he's talking about everything, are you fucking kidding me? The Daily Wire easily makes more viewership than that. The Daily Wire, it's a conglomerate of like 6 or 7 different fucking conservative channels, and all that shit gets reposted everywhere. I promise you, the Daily Wire, in comparison to Young Turks, they probably have like triple or quadruple those views. This is gigacope. This is unbelievable cope. Facebook is Daily Wire's bread and butter. I mean, yeah, of course. Daily Wire literally gets put on as ads. To be very clear, I understand what point he's trying to make, which is that, yeah, the Young Turks is one of the few original, if not the only, original shows, progressive shows on the internet. And it's a successful one. Everyone else is sort of like an individual content creator kind of making their own propaganda. Propaganda here being used as a neutral term. And they're not even progressive anymore. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just Ben Shapiro on YouTube got last month 125 million views. Yeah, they get more than 5 billion a year. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Jesus Christ.
You name it.
That's great. If Daily Wire is on all of those platforms with the exception of Snap, I think, probably. I would assume that they're not on Snapchat. Yes, they probably get significantly more. I don't have like access to their media deck, but their Facebook numbers blow everyone else's out of the water. Time and time again, every single Daily Wire content creator is absolutely, at the top of the leaderboard in terms of impressions, in terms of readers, in terms of everything.
So Haas, let me give you my perspective and context on it. So since I'm like a generation older than you, I grew up completely on mainstream media where we didn't have any options at all. And I write about that a little bit in chapter 5. And that...
You know what? Cenk would make a great politician, okay? Motherfucker only knows how to fucking sponsor and promote and have ad reads. Listen, if you read my book, it's only $19.99 on Amazon. If you use the affiliate link below, it'll actually be cheaper for you. If you read it in chapter 5, I actually already said this. What? A, B, C, always be... What is the C again? What is it? Closing. Always be closing. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God, dude.
Turned everybody Republican. And the reason for that was that they would tell you like Ronald Reagan is the Gipper and he's a cowboy and he's awesome and America's a shining city on a hill and that's what Republicans stand for. And Democrats are weak losers like Michael Dukakis looking funny in a tank. And they all did it 24/7. There was no other option, just corporate media. And so I think conservative voters have some redeeming values. We could talk about that if you want. But all Republican politicians and all Republican media figures are liars, okay? They have to lie because they can't say, hey, I want you to take all your money and give it to the rich. That's their actual objective, and they can't ever say that. And then you could say it about 100 different things. They can't say, hey, I want you to smoke cigarettes and get cancer because they pay me. Hey, I want you to take guns and shoot yourselves because the gun manufacturers pay me. I want you to destroy the planet because ExxonMobil pays me. They're never going to say any of that. So it's one lie after another, and we call them talking points. But these days, even if you were right and Daily Wire is slightly larger than TYT or TYT is slightly larger than Daily Wire, it doesn't matter because what matters is that
I like how he's still coping at the Young Turks. It could possibly be bigger than the Daily Wire. Oh my. Cenk, please. Cope is not a good look. It doesn't look good on anyone. Man, look, man. You can't. Whoa, Mr. Mayor, what's wrong? He's having so much fun. You guys can't hear it, but he's purring.
they can't stop us, you, and 1,000 other streamers out there. and we're going to get the message out. And so like now some of their old talking points sound so dumb and asinine. And so when they try their things about like, oh, trickle down economics. When I was growing up, the
That was the
media
law.
actually brainwashed people into thinking trickle down economics was real.
Yeah, the
Like-
same. Okay.
And now we've destroyed that.
But
Anyone-
the difference, of course, though, is that because these companies have so much money, and because they make so much money off of these sponsors, essentially, and these massive, like, right-wing conservative, like, think tanks, is because they have entire teams dedicated to trying to rig algos. So even if your content is better, even if all of these leftist content creators exist, guess what? They have so many buckets of money. They can just pay to have people optimize every single video that they publish. You know? Pushing racism.exe to the general public. Yeah, I mean, sort of relevant on Twitch news. How many people in here know about Fextra Life? Ones if you know. Twos if you don't know. Okay, a lot of people know. What now? Fextra Life. It's a Twitch channel. Not live right now. I'll pull up their Twitch tracker right now. Tracker. It's a Twitch channel. Gets like 10,000 average viewers. Very big channel, right? Oh, they must be like very successful creators. Oh, wow, I wonder what the stream is about. Except that Fextra Life is also like a wiki. And they get a lot of their viewers from auto-playing streams on the wiki page. Okay? I'll pull it up for you guys so you guys can see. Let me click like a random page. It's not pulling up right now for some bizarre reason. But anyways, usually when you go to one of their wiki pages, I just pulled up like a random page, there's usually a Fextra Life stream that's auto-playing. So they get a lot of people to watch their content, and they get to benefit off of Twitch. Now, to be clear, a man in his hustle, you know, I can't disagree with that. You know, rip, you know, take Twitch's ad money. Sure, whatever. I'm not going to be upset about that. What I am upset about, though, is that apparently their, like, search engine optimization is so good that it pushes all the other wikis to the fucking bottom. Which in Baldur's Gate 3, I don't know how many people have seen it, Baldur's Gate 3, the Fextra Life wiki is dog shit. It's so shit. Like, you will look at a quest and it'll be like, we don't have a page for this yet. Or you click on, you know, a page for a character and it's like, we think that this is for a quest. And it's so shit. And then you want to know what? Guess what? If you look up Wiki Baldur's Gate 3 on Google, I think it finally is not the case anymore. Holy shit. For the longest time, it was the Fextra Life one coming up first. You would look up anything and it was the Fextra Life one coming up first and you would have to scroll to find the actual good wiki. And this is the actual good wiki that's like comprehensive, that is actually updated correctly. Okay? And the fact that Fextra Life is still coming up as number 2 is crazy. Google's actually been making their searches worse. Really? For me, it's the number 1. Yes. True, it was kind of annoying. And again, it wouldn't be a problem if their wiki was good or if it was on the same quality as this. But the problem is that it's not on the same quality as this. It's there have been so many quests that I've looked up and it's just not. Explaining how rigging the algo. Can you explain rigging the algo in gaming terms? Yeah. For me, it's the number 2 after Wikipedia, so it's above the real game wiki. And this is the actual good game wiki. For anyone who's playing and has been looking for the wiki, bg3.wiki. This is the actual good wiki that actually has the information. And apparently they did the same thing with like Elden Ring or something and a couple other things. But they have decided, instead of making a Twitch channel that's fun to watch and getting those views organically, I am instead going to put all of my money into search engine optimization so that and into this Wikipedia, so I make money off of that. Which now, again, I wouldn't care if the Wikipedia was good, but it's not good. They blew up when Dark Souls became popular and have been riding the wave ever since. Yeah. Yes. There's like 3 actual viewers in there at most. Yes. And I mean, luckily for people who do keep up with Twitch news or whatever, it does seem like they're finally doing something better. I'm not sure how many people saw this clip recently.
And he says, had dinner with Co tonight. We're talking about embed some more. We were looking at ways to solve it without having the downside.
The clip is titled Twitch CEO asked streamer to make a list of the biggest embedding offenders so Twitch can disable their autoplay.
There was an idea that I floated with Co that we discussed, had a question to you. The idea is to do something quick by identifying a list of websites that are the worst offenders and prevent autoplay on these websites. Again, this is a quick and dirty thing that we can do easily while we think about a better long-term plan. So my question for you is that my understanding is that there's a short list of the worst offenders starting with Fextra Life. Can you rattle off the worst offenders right now? I have the data team trying to find a good way to detect the worst of these, and it's good to have a short list of the worst offenders. So we are putting a list together this morning, man. And he says, had dinner with Co tonight.
So anyways, yeah. For anyone who wasn't paying attention, basically Twitch is finally going to do something about like the people who are essentially view botting, but not doing it illegally. So yeah, name and shamed. Yeah, Fextra Life coming to kick in 2 weeks. Yeah, I think I saw like a post that said, looks like Fextra finally ran out of lives. All right, we'll get back to the video. I don't even remember why we got on that Sunlock.
Who says trickle-down economics is considered a total joke.
We didn't destroy that. I don't think that we destroy that. I think like objective reality and the lack of that promise destroyed it signitigely more than
objective reality was always against it, Haas. It wasn't even close.
I know, but people started people after 30, 40 years of neoliberal austerity recognize now that like that is complete a bullshit. Now it doesn't matter because people still do the same thing. They move as soon as the established narrative, the norms that people recognize are at odds with whatever the media is saying or are at odds with what like right-wing moneyed interests are trying to pump, then ultimately they move on to the next thing. That's I am in agreement with what you're saying, but like ultimately the market collapse in 2008 probably did significantly more for people to understand that like trickle down economics was bullshit from the jump than anything else. That played a major role in people losing confidence in like a lot of economists and what they were saying, which they should lose confidence in because these guys are spreading poison. But
here, let me give you one example of the power of an alternate voice. So, and this is a very ironic example. So Iraq war was always bullshit. It was always obvious. Mainstream media didn't say it. They said, oh, yeah, weapons of mass destruction. And they attacked from the general same region as Iraq, etc. Right? So, okay, 70% of Americans, when we attacked Iraq, thought that Saddam Hussein had personally attacked us on 9/11, right? So they mass lied, mass hypnosis, etc. So no matter how much we were right, we couldn't break through. And then that lasts for forever. Until Donald Trump goes, Iraq war was bullshit. And all of a sudden the dam breaks. And then the Republicans go, oh, yeah.
No, I disagree with that as well.
No.
I think
before
you and
that,
I have,
if not a single Republican said the Iraq war was bullshit.
You and I,
until
it
Trump
doesn't matter
said
what Republicans say. You and I are at fundamental odds and will forever be at fundamental odds in the way that we analyze the world because I am a believer.
I disagree so wholeheartedly. There's no way. First of all, I'm pretty sure people still think Saddam Hussein personally flew himself into the Twin Towers, okay? But also, I don't think that the turning point for Americans was that Donald Trump said that the Iraq War was a myth. I think there are a lot of people who knew from the jump that it was bullshit. And once there was even sort of a modicum of data, they immediately were like, oh yeah, of course this is bullshit. You know, the US has a history of invading countries where it wants resources. Surprise, surprise that it did it here too. You know? And then there were the people who didn't believe it and probably still don't, who just kind of ignore it. Jet fuel can't melt Saddam. Yeah. He respawned, don't worry. He quick saved right before, so it's fine.
Believer that the material conditions and things withering away, like larger structural moves in either direction, are significantly more important in bludgeoning people with reality than the media moving in a specific direction. I'm also a believer that, like, under an inherently oppressive construct, yes, you can inevitably shift the attitude on the more reactionary side of things. And unfortunately, the only way to stop that is by waiting it out and just eating the pain. But I don't think that the media can get together. Like, let's say if tomorrow MSNBC, CNN, and mainstream media were no longer owned by the same corporate entities and we're actually doing objective journalism across the board, and not whenever like it is like anti-Trump, which drives clicks or whatever, and it's permissible, right? I don't think that would cause a genuine sea change in the way that I think you believe that.
Yeah, I think a progressive would be president the next day. Okay.
I think that they would play a very significant role in changing people's attitudes, but the reality is that could never happen in our current structure regardless. There would be need for a world where the material realities were different.
But
like,
the material realities are different. So we've got every single thing lining up for us. Younger voters, the destruction of mainstream media, rise of new media, but also objective reality. So, for example, why did FDR incredibly progressive things? Why did LBJ, at least on social issues, do incredibly progressive things? Because
the economic realities, one, demanded it, and two, there was more pushback from outside groups at the time. There was more militant labor, and people were recognizing the writing on the wall about America's dire economic circumstance.
It's exactly right. And what's the situation we're in now? Almost exactly the same thing. Now we need to build a labor movement. We need to build more direct action.
I agree. That's why I do what I do. I think a lot of people don't understand that. The only place that I have any sort of optimism for the future is in the labor movement, which is why I do what I do. I want to change people's minds about certain things and allow them to see for themselves the autonomy that they can have.
I mean, we're seeing like a level of striking and unionization that we haven't seen in decades, actually. The thing that isn't the same is the inertia and the power of mechanisms that enforce the status quo. Yes, totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, you have to remember that we didn't have the giant media corporations that, or sorry. Yeah, I was, that sentence made sense. We've only recently gotten these massive giant media corporations that have full control. Does anyone have that one video? Sorry to bother you, Meerkat. It's a video from like Fox News anchors saying the same thing. Like literally word for word, bar for bar. Let me see if I can. Is it this? I think this is it. Hold on. Which one? This probably this one.
There's a lot of attention around Sinclair Broadcasting and its conservative bent. Its local, especially see.
The sharing of biased and false news
has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
I think you get.
These are all different news channels. Just so you know. These are technically all different news channels. Rupert Murdoch, when that son of a bitch dies, it'll be a great day for everyone. Unfortunately, his family's still alive. You can also do the identical thing with crime coverage by local news. Yeah, I mean, it's like a one. I know this is Sinclair. I'm saying that, like, Rupert Murdoch is also guilty of this, just slightly less offensive. Yeah, his son already took over. This is the opposite side of the spectrum to what most people imagine Chinese news is. Yeah, isn't it funny that people love to say, oh, Chinese propaganda, China, they don't even have real news. It's all propaganda. Meanwhile, the illusion of choice right here in front of you. Doesn't matter if you're watching this ABC 33 or Fox 11 or Channel 4 News or Fox 21 or 29, excuse me, or News something, ABC 20. Doesn't matter. You're watching the same garbage. You're literally watching all the same garbage. Sadly, the bot is buried there and it's guarded and secure, so you can even go shit on Rupert's grave.
My bad, Denim. Sure.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you for the 20 months. Yeah, no. They have so much power, you know? And this level of like propaganda, this level of illusion of choice propaganda did not exist a couple decades ago. We had propaganda 100%. I mean, the entirety of trickle-down economics, that was propaganda. The war on drugs, that was propaganda. Hard on crime, that was propaganda. All of it was propaganda. However, it's gotten to a new level today.
And change their immediate workplaces, somewhere that they spend 80% of their adult lives in, and therefore set up the groundwork for a mechanism of pushback against the Democratic Party and force the Democratic Party's hand to do the right thing when it's a necessity to do so.
And look, all smart progressives are going in the same exact direction, right?
Yeah.
So
I've been on that direction.
Yeah, so my co-host Anna's obsessed with the labor movement. Totally believes that's the answer. Nina Turner, who's another host on our network, just announced today that she set up a new group with Chris Smalls to back the labor movement.
Like I said, we have never seen these levels of unionization in how many decades? Starbucks unionizing, WGA, SAG, insurance companies now. I don't know how many people saw. I talked about it a little bit. Kaiser Permanente unionizing, or rather striking to unionize. Excuse me, I'm misspeaking a little bit. Either they're striking to get better wages and to get better conditions or whatever, or they're unionizing. Did CVS also have some striking as well? They've done so much. They've literally done so much. Most recently, Disney VFX workers voted unanimously to unionize. Yeah, I mean, dude, fucking Christ, the amount of bullshit that VFX workers have to deal with. I feel so bad. Nowadays, directors literally will shoot something and say, we'll fix it in post. And the poor people fixing it in post are working unbelievable hours, fucking terrible wages. What is this? All unionized Dragon Age Dreadwolf QA workers have been laid off. I'm not even interested. You have to understand, chat. Dragon Age was like one of my hyper fixations. It was probably one of my favorite games ever. Top 3, probably pretty easily. Specifically Dragon Age Origins, but Origins was so good, it powered me through the rest of it. I think the plot is really cool. I think the Blight is really cool. I think the Wardens are cool. I think the Mages are cool. The universe is really good. I think the world building I have never seen better world building than the world building in Dragon Age, in my opinion. In my opinion, it has the best world building of like any game. And every single piece of news that I've seen on Dragon Age 4, they removed your ability to control your allies, so now it's more like Mass Effect. And it's more of a hack and slash. They were also supposed to do this in Tevinter, and like I guess the higher up said people aren't going to want to buy that. start over from scratch after a year of working on that game. And now they're laying off the unionized workers. Nice. Puggers. It's crazy that unions in the U.S. were not a thing for such a long time, beyond comprehension. Well, unions used to be really big in America. People used to be very pro-unions. And then somewhere along the lines, people stopped giving a fuck about unions. And now we're finally giving a fuck about unions again. Really like your cat? Me too. His name is Mayor Cat. Isn't he the best? Let's see. All of the Keyword Studios unionized QA workers were laid off from the studio in late September after Dragon Age Dreadwolf developer BioWare declined to continue its contract. Fuck you, BioWare. I hate BioWare. All my homies hate BioWare. The QA workers who were contracted to assist with playtesting and quality assurance won their union vote in June 2022. All 16 eligible voters said yes to join the United Food and Commercial Workers Canada Union, local number 401, historic vote, making the group the first game industry union in Canada. Keyword Studios workers were in bargaining with the company when they were laid off following the news of 50 job cuts at BioWare itself. Nice. There's ambiguity on the timing due to the contract running out, but let's be real, they were going to go with non-union workforce if they can. Of course they are. Of course they are. Why wouldn't you exploit your labor? I just can't. Have you ever watched Mythic Quest? It's like the Silicon Valley for the gaming industry. It sounds vaguely familiar. I'm just like forgetting. All right. Unions largely went away when conservatives tricked the workers into believing they will make more money because unions are stealing all of the money with your dues. Yep. Silly Night Priestess, thank you for the 9 months.
I mean, and to even get funding for the labor movement whenever they go on strike, etc. And so that's what pushed FDR. That's what's going to push the next generation. Because, Haas, the economic situation isn't going to fix itself. Like, you know, the old line of power never concedes without a demand, never has, never will. So we've got to demand it. And right now, since the economic situation is so bad for workers, they keep demanding it, right? So more demands.
It's not just that either. It's all, yes, it's also, there is actually a real tight labor market and not a tight labor market with like, you're right though, the confidence is different because we've already had tight labor market periods where income has not increased in the way that it's supposed to. Real income, real wages have not increased in the way that it's supposed to. And even economists are baffled by this reality. Well, the reason for that was because labor had lost and capital had won that war.
That's
Whereas
totally
now, in a post-COVID world, I think with the unimaginable amount of profits that these corporations are raking in, labor has a decent bargaining position because they saw that, you know, if people just simply didn't go back to work, that people were fucked.
Yeah. So look, they took and they took and they took and they took too much. And so this is how we get to balance. We push back. So we're in the middle of pushing back. And so everything is trending in our direction. The only thing is we can't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And there's 2 icebergs ahead. And so I'm not Pollyannish. I see the icebergs probably better than anybody else does. And I'm really worried about it, okay? One is
what are
the progressive movement, honestly, and this is where you and I can begin
No. This is how they got on the trans issues topic? Are you kidding me?
disagree. Getting too radical and too away from what most Americans want. And the second iceberg.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So look, we saying things like all sports leagues, including professional ones, has to allow trans women. They don't have a choice, etc.
Oh boy,
it pulls it like
my
2%.
monthly chance to use text to speech. I hope I don't fuck it.
Dude, thank you so much for the 3 months of Prime. Thank you.
Hey, it's a moral issue. It's really important.
Do you think
the
it's
sports leagues are like the most important thing in the whole wide world?
Do you think it's actually a significant issue? Do you think that that is a significant issue or a driver of the conversation, or cynically weaponized by Republicans with like some liberals taking the bait and then having a conversation about it instead of being like, fuck off, nobody cares about this, stop talking about
fucking based, holy based, holy based.
Mom said it's my turn on the TTS.
I've never seen a more based statement. Jesus, I think this is the most based he's ever been. It's like literally a non-issue. Most people don't even talk about it. The only instance where people talk about it is within the sports community, people who actually give a fuck about sports, and like within the regulators who work on sports, right, or who work with like sports regulation. I don't fucking know. I'm not a sports ball person, and conservatives have weaponized the fuck out of it because guess what? Telling people that you hate trans people because you don't like it isn't effective. Sadly, you have to make it about some other issue that's not relevant or important and run with that. Why sit there and argue whether or not trans people should be allowed to have access to healthcare when instead you could say, hey, what about these trans women in sports? Let's all talk about this instead of that. You just don't interact. You don't engage. You say, like, this is not relevant to our discussion. Moving away. Diner Special, thank you for the 25 months. No,
this immediately.
I got burn in my eye.
Well, that's exactly what the right wing does. They weaponize every single issue. What I'm trying to get progressives to do is stop falling in the trap. So the minute they say it, our side comes out and goes, no, this is the most important issue. And anyone who disagrees is a Nazi. You just called 98% of the country Nazis.
Okay.
What are you doing? You're alienating voters like crazy.
Do you think that organizers on the ground, both trans and cis, that are or members of labor unions are
also this isn't happening, by the way. When people bring up trans issues, no one
is falling into the rookie hole.
He's falling into the rookie hole so hard. When people bring up the trans issue, everyone else just says, okay, well, this is my opinion on it. We can deal with these problems one at a time. Can we just fucking finish talking about labor issues first? And by the way, generally what people are talking about when they say this is the most important issue related to trans people, it's about protecting trans people from violence by removing laws that allow you to murder trans people. And 30 states allow you to murder trans people in self-defense or some bullshit. I forget the name of the type of law. Stop licking me, Mayor Cat. Your tongue is so harsh. Ow, ow, ow. I don't want to be exfoliated. Okay. Wait, what? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Trans panic defense. Yes, there we go. It's legal in 30 plus states. All right, here we go. We'll just pull up a random article really quickly. Gay/trans panic defense. What is it? How to end it? It legitimizes, excuses violent behavior and lethal behavior against members in the queer community. Defense is defined by the LGBT bar as a legal strategy which asks the jury to find that a victim's sexual orientation or gender identity is to blame for the defendant's violent reaction, including murder. And I don't know exactly the number of states where this is the case, but let's see. Despite these grim statistics, there's hope. As of July 1st, 2019, 8 states have passed legislative bans on the use of trans panic as legal defense. California, Illinois, Rhode Island, Nevada, Connecticut, Maine, Hawaii, and New York. Must be noted, gay/trans panic defense is not an affirmative legal defense. It is a tactic to strengthen the defense by playing on prejudice.
Chuds are like trans women in sports this. Trans women and sports that. How about you transport yourself to a church and learn to love your neighbor? Can I get an amen, chat?
Exactly. But yeah, the TLDR is that you're allowed to walk up to a jury and say, guys, anyone in my position would have murdered the trans woman that lied to me. because she didn't literally lie to me, but I thought she was a cis woman and then she wasn't a cis woman. So I killed her. But anyone would have done that. Oh, that's a good point. Basically, trying to ban this, it's not a defense, but trying to ban it, trying to ban the tactic would mean that the judge would say, like, you know, objection, you know, this is not, you're not allowed to do this or whatever the fuck. So things like this, when people talk about this is one of the most important issues, at the very least myself, and I can speak for myself and I can speak for all the people that I know and probably almost everyone in here. When we talk about these are the most important issues of our times right now, we're talking about removing things like trans panic defenses. We're talking about giving trans people health care that they need. Okay, we're talking about allowing trans people to exist in public without getting hate crimed. We're talking about protecting trans people in workplaces and against workplace discrimination. That is what we're talking about. Okay? We're not talking about, we need to make sure that trans women are playing in every single sport. That is not what that's not what we're talking about. No, in fact, it feels like I've never spoken to a trans person that has ever told me that's the most important issue to them. I don't even know if I've ever spoken to a single leftist that has told me the most important issue for trans people is sports. Don't get me wrong, we can cross that bridge when we get there. But how about we just get to the point where we treat trans people like, I don't know, people? I would say that the most important issue would be staying alive and not getting murdered. We're on the other side of the planet from that bridge. We are not even anywhere near that fucking bridge, dude. Let the people in sports figure it out. It doesn't concern me. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. Pepega, well, it really says something about society that I believe that. Yeah. Oh my God. He's just literally parroting right-wing talking points to say the left needs to stop doing this.
Even using this as a talking point in any meaningful capacity, or is it simply reactionary Republicans bringing this up because they tried and unsuccessfully failed to push the anti-trans button with bathroom bills?
Except for the fact that they passed all those bills, which I despise. No. I hate those bills.
Let me just clarify something here. In the lead up to the 2016 election, you had the North Carolina bathroom bill that was anti-trans, right? You have to have the gender assigned at birth be the bathroom that you go to.
That totally failed.
Okay, right. That failed. That was so objectively a failure that Donald Trump came out and said, I don't give a fuck where Caitlyn Jenner shits as long as she's shitting in Trump Tower, right? Along those lines.
But
I'm
then
paraphrasing.
He tried to ban them from the military.
Hold on. Let me finish.
That was also unpopular. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me finish. Okay? Yeah, he tried to ban trans people from the military. That was also unpopular. So what did Republican interest groups do? The family, moral family, Christianity fundamentalist groups. What did they do? They went back to the drawing board and they looked for a reasonable sidestep that would still be anti-trans, that would open the door to anti-trans conversations that they could push for that was more popular. What did they find? They found that Americans love the concept that is bullshit. Meritocracy. What is the most meritocratic process in the entire country? Yep. Maybe in the world? Sports. Americans love sports, and Americans believe that meritocracy is real, and it's especially real in sports. So they changed the narrative away from trans people can't pee and poo in the fucking bathrooms to trans people want to destroy sports. It was simply just
And you want to know the funniest thing about it? Oh my fucking God. The absolutely funniest thing. A second Juniper has been suspended? No way. I'm sorry. Let's talk about a couple things. No, I read that message and then I forgot what I was going to say. No. Wait.
Another bathrooms to trans people want to destroy
meritocracy. It's really funny that historically, every single time women in sports have tried to vouch for themselves, and cis women specifically have tried to vouch for themselves and have had to try and be treated similarly or fairly to their male counterparts. They have gotten mocked. They have gotten laughed at. They have been told, yeah, well, your sport isn't even as good as the man's sport. So who gives a fuck? Nobody watches your sport. Why would we give you like the same privileges, like fuck off, we literally don't care, and all that other shit. And then the second trans people start existing, they're like, someone needs to do that. We care so much about the women that are in sports. We care so much. It's like unbelievable. It's crazy. Unbelievable. Trans women here, I always say to people that bitch about sports, okay, take that away. Do you have any other issues? Continue until they either admit that they're transphobic or give in to propaganda. If they give in to propaganda, tell them I don't give a fuck. If I can play hockey again, I want to live. Yeah. And I mean, is that really such an absurd concept, right? Is that such an absurd concept that trans people are going to care way more about, I don't know, living than they are going to be about sports? So stupid. Show me your dick. I gotta know if you're allowed to hit the ball in front of 12 parents and whoever you've dragged with them. Yeah, it's stupid. It's fucking stupid. It's not about women or sports. It's about trans people existing. Yep. It's a classic right-winger strategy. Defending the point is too hard, so you gotta make up some other bullshit. And it's like Maud Bailey. Because that's easy to fearmonger. And they've done that for years, right? They've done that absolutely for years. Look no further than abortion, right? It's something like 95 or like 99% of abortions happen before the third trimester. And the small percentage that does happen, almost all of those instances are because of health complications for the mother or the child. That's it. I think even like, it's like 70% of abortions happen in the first trimester also. So but they love to parrot this narrative that women are going out and getting pregnant every other weekend and having abortions just like willy-nilly, just to have fun. You know what I mean? Just to have fun, just to have a little, everybody loves to have a little abortion as a treat. Meanwhile, if you speak to anyone who's had an abortion or anyone who's had to deal with the procedure, they tell you that it is one of the worst experiences of their life. I feel very lucky that I've not had to deal with that. But I've spoken to people who have, and they've said it's like genuinely one of the worst. Women, I don't understand. Dapper, I'm sorry. I'm paid. Time for my biweekly abortion. Yeah. And so there's like a sub 0.01% of women. I don't want to be actually exclusionary. So anyone who fits into the category of like birthing person, actually, this would be a good instance to use birthing person. Anyone who can get pregnant, out of all of these people, it is like 0.01% or less of people just having abortions in the third trimester for a reason outside of health complications. And a Kasparian yeah. Oh, Lord. Can men get pregnant? Yeah, trans men can get pregnant. People who are female to male can get pregnant, and it is a disrespectful thing to call them women when they are not women, and they don't want to be referred as such, and they present as everything but women. But they can, surprise, surprise, if you have a uterus, a functioning one, yeah. Anon, thank you for the gifts up to Elamons. Thank you.
Sports. It was simply just another way to attack trans people, which is precisely why I think a lot of people correctly looked at that and went, why the fuck are we talking about this? This is ultimately marginal.
Oh, yeah. Also, sorry, you're completely correct. There are also instances of intersex people who have like XXY chromosomes or something that isn't XX that can still get pregnant. So, and those people wouldn't themselves consider themselves women, and we necessarily wouldn't consider them women. We would consider them as being intersex, right? Or like not female, but intersex. And those are still people that can get pregnant. So when you say something like, oh, women, this is impacting women, you're excluding all of the other people that can, you know?
You just want to fucking eliminate trans people from public spaces. And I have never given an ounce of legitimacy to that argument, despite what public polling says, because the reality is no one gives a fuck about it. Let me tell you something that's more important than public polling, however, because you brought up.
So far, I don't even see where we disagree.
Okay, so you brought up legislatures, state legislatures, Republicans like passing incredibly, horrifyingly psychotic anti-trans bills.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, 1 second. I have to show this. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Why delete comments that aren't being transphobic or problematic? Can men get pregnant? I'm not even trying to troll. How? LMAO, are you talking about biological women that identify as men? Are those men? Are those the men that can get pregnant? My favorite thing is someone who's like, I'm not trying to be transphobic. I'm just asking a question. Proceeds to be transphobic. Psychic damage.
Okay. And they're passing this. Yet there is no viable single issue voter out there that is like desiring these anti-trans bills. Although if you ask, Americans directly about like, what do you think about a 14-year-old trans girl like participating in a swim meet? They might say 56% might say, fuck that. That's wrong. We shouldn't do that. But the reality is there isn't any real momentum on the ground for anti-trans shit. Voters do not give a fuck about trans people overall. The overwhelming majority of voters actually have apathy for trans people. They just don't care about it because they think that there's no trans people in their lives whatsoever. Republicans, however, have kept on pushing the anti-trans button over and over again and made it their major fucking talking point.
That's right.
That has yielded horrifyingly bad results for them. And instead of like fucking assassinating Christopher Rufo, for example, who's one of the leading guys here at the Manhattan Institute that was like doing the CRT stuff, doing the anti-trans stuff, instead of going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You ruined our midterm chances when Biden had a historically bad economy, when a red tsunami was supposed to happen. That was a major failure on their part. One that actually has led to Kevin McCarthy's ouster as the speaker right now, a domino effect of like the Republican Party imploding.
I forgot what we were watching or what we were reading, but the saddest reality, also obsolete bullet, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Thank you so much. The saddest reality is that the conservatives and the Republicans that are in power right now, they only push these issues because it's the only way that they can get elected. And that they can continue to push whatever their fucking donors want. Because they don't actually push or campaign on things that help people. They just campaign on fear-mongering so that they can get elected. So that they can do whatever their donors want them to do. Policy is hard, moral panic is easy. Yeah, I mean, literally, no, you guys don't understand. They're killing the unborn. They're killing the babies. We have to do something to save them. Okay, we got it. We got the votes. We got in power. Great. You guys don't understand. They're doing this. They're doing Okay, we got the votes. Great. Perfect. And now that they don't really have anything else that's important, that's impacting people, and people are looking around and saying, you know, I don't know if I even really care about trans people. I can't even pay my bills. I can't afford to ever go on vacation. I will never buy a house. Trans people could be fucking having orgies for all I care. I want to be able to live. I want to be able to potentially retire. Wait, where? Stop that.
Voting in and of itself, partially because the only thing that they have been looking for, the only thing that they have, the only tangible policy position is just increasing the dial of transphobia, but there's not enough people on the ground who are demanding it. And those who are demanding it are increasingly more psychopathic, which is pushing away normal fucking Republican voters who are just like, I just want tax cuts, man. Like, I'm racist, sure, but like, the fuck's going on? Like, I don't give a shit about this. Like, why are you talking about dismembering children's genitals all the fucking time? You sound like a psycho. They're getting outrage fatigue, and it has demonstrably been a failure. And that's part of the reason why you don't see Trump talking too much about wokeness or trans people. He like brings it up every.
He doesn't. He barely brings it up, and then he just says like, "We are gonna make America great again. We need to get rid of Biden's inflation. He's making the country terrible." And it's because he recognizes that the voters don't fucking give a fuck. Like there's a small portion of people, a small portion of people in the U.S. that give a fuck about these issues. And these are like middle to upper class, white privileged folks who are unbelievably conservative in nature. Okay, it's train porn time, guys. Children, look away.